It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the business owner of the sports podcast called Devil's State of Mind. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. Very excited to talk a little bit Devils hockey, talk about the podcast and everything in between. But I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on today.
That's wonderful. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start a sports team podcast?
That's a really good question. Something that a lot of people haven't really asked me. To be honest with you, it really kind of started with I interacted with my good friend Isha Dromi, who's one of the guys at the head of the Hockey Podcast Network. I was interacting with him on his podcast, which is the Soda Pod, which covers the Minnesota Wild. And he said to me that he really liked my inputs all the time and wanted to have me on the podcast. So I said, sure, I'll jump on. And we had I was on there and he really liked me. And he said, hey, we're looking for a Devils host. Would you be interested in jumping on? I said, absolutely. Because, I cover all sports. I've done a bunch of different things. I was the host of my own TV show down in South Jersey for a couple of years. I've done some podcasting for other things, some YouTube work as well. And I cover all sports, but the one that I'm most passionate about 100% is hockey. And the New Jersey Devils are obviously my team. Being, born and raised in New Jersey, you gotta represent the hometown team, as I say. And this just was an opportunity for me to bring my voice out to the world about the game of hockey and the New Jersey Devils. And so far, it's been nothing but truly a blessing and just an absolutely tremendous experience that I've been doing here for almost a year now.
That's amazing. How did you come up with the name of your podcast, The Devil's State of Mind?
Yes, I've had a lot of people ask me this question. Well, first of all, it's played off of the song by Frank Sinatra, New York State of Mind. It was tough because there's a lot of podcasts out there that have the name Devils in them, and you're trying to find one that, is unique to you and obviously that you can actually use. And it was just constantly going through things, trying to figure out things that kind of resonate with the Devils, resonate with New Jersey. And, just that kind of came up out of really nowhere, honestly. And you saw, New York State of Mind, Frank Sinatra was born and raised in Hoboken, New Jersey. And and I put Devils in front of New York and I said, Devil's State of Mind. That sounds pretty good. That sounds really creative. So I stuck with it, and a lot of people seem to like it. The guys, the Hockey Podcast Network loved it, and it's been the name ever since.
Can you talk about, of course, how you designed your logo?
I actually personally didn't design my logo. Actually, I had a couple of ideas, and I sent them to one of the guys, Dylan Kaiser, who's one of the other owners of the Hockey Podcast Network. We have a guy that does a lot of the designs for the podcast on here. So I gave a couple of ideas. They sent them to the guy. He made the logo, and the rest is history. So my only input was basically just giving an idea, getting the red, green, and white in there with the black, the kind of, the Devils colors that we've known and loved for many years. And, obviously showing the state of New Jersey is an important thing. And so it's just, hey, let's get the state of Jersey in there. Let's get a little bit of horns at the top and, go from there. And it's a very, very creative logo, and I'm very happy to have it.
Of course, on your podcast, as the New Jersey Devils podcast, what are some of the topics that you talk about?
No, it's a very good question because, some people, some podcasts talk about one specific thing. Some people talk about another. I kind of go out to everything. I try to give you the most up-to-date information about the Devils, especially during the season. I do game recaps, give my own take on how games go. Any news that comes up, prospect signings, trades, rumors, anything like that, I also bring up. And I also try to get on as many guests as I can that are, usually Devils related, but certainly hockey related. I've had the likes of Brendan Burke that's come on. I've had some other great people come on. I had Mike Morial, who covers the Devils for NHL.com. I've had a couple of other, really good people on there, some friends, some other podcast hosts. I just try to basically I just cover the Devils with my own little spin on it, basically. And I try to give people as much information about the New Jersey Devils as possible. And, I say in the intro of my podcast, it's the best place to get the most up-to-date news about your New Jersey Devils. And so that's kind of what I do. And so I just try to talk about basically everything there is to talk about with the New Jersey Devils.
Can you talk about, of course, I know PK Shuko, who used to be with my Nashville Predators. Can you talk about how it was getting him and what you covered when you got him?
Yeah, no, that is a really good question. It's been great, I would say. We get new people into the network all the time. I would say every couple of weeks we get a new podcast, a couple new hosts. We're growing the hockey podcast family day in and day out and building it. And, our main goal at the end of the day is to make the Hockey Podcast Network the place for hockey podcasts, for fans. And we've built such a great following, and we get people like him and so many other big names out there in the podcasting world and in the sports media world. And it's been tremendous. I mean, we've grown so much since I started, which is crazy to think. I started less than a year ago. A year ago, right now, I was just getting used to the pandemic as we're still in it. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And having this opportunity to be a part and, of this entire family with so many other big names is certainly an honor. And it's been tremendous from the start. And we're just getting better and better each day.
Of course, how does it feel to be a part of the Hockey Podcast Network?
Well, like I said, it feels tremendous. It feels, I'm so lucky to be able to have a podcast where I'm in control of everything, what we talk about, what I post on social media, how I post on social media, how I interact with people. It means so much to me that I have so many people out there that want to take the time to listen to what I have to say, and people will interact with me on social media and on the podcast. And it just, I thank the man upstairs, and I thank Isha and Dylan and the entire Hockey Podcast family, and also the guys at Amaze as well, Amaze Media Labs, that do a fantastic job. I'm just so thankful that they've all given me this opportunity, and I'm going to continue to give the network, the Devils, and just the fans in general my absolute all, day in and day out. I actually have another episode coming out tomorrow on Thursday, April 1st. I absolutely love just talking about the Devils, no matter how good or bad we are, no matter what the situation is. I enjoy talking about the Devils and talking about something that I really love. And again, just having people want to spend the time to hear what I have to say means the world to me.
That's amazing. What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before starting a podcast?
Whew, that's a tough thing, because I've been in the sports media industry since I was maybe 10, 11 years old. I've known what I wanted to be for a long time, but it's changed over time, from being a broadcaster to then I want to be the host of my own show to, everything in between. It's like with everything, plans change, especially with what's going on in the world. The one thing that I've learned more than anything else is that it can be tough when you're the only person talking, if you're not with somebody else and you're having to come up with everything on your own. And I didn't realize how much, time and effort goes into just making a single podcast episode. I know for some of us, it seems like it's not that hard, but it actually is very hard, because you have to spend the time to think about what you want to talk about, get information that's clear and definitive, put it into a script, and then be as clear and precise as possible when you're talking, but also have the energy and the enthusiasm to keep people's attention for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the episode. And it's also the other thing that I didn't realize is that once you get a certain following, once you start building up your brand and people start following you and start listening to you on a daily basis, you really start to realize just how much people value what you have to say. And that's the thing that's always blown my mind. And no matter what I've done, whether I did my own TV show or I was on YouTube or doing some other things, whenever I had people, reach out to me and say, hey, I really love the episode you did. I love your work. I love your enthusiasm. It's just something I never could imagine that could happen to someone like me. I'm only 23 years of age and I'm doing all these things. It's just amazing. But yeah, I would say, the preparation that goes into just a single episode, whether it's, like we're doing right now, like having an interview, or, just sitting and talking for a half hour straight about the Devils game last night, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot that goes into it that you have to make sure and make sure that you're precise and clear about it. Because if you're not any of those things, you're not going to have much success. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
That's amazing. What are some of your future plans with the Devil's State of Mind?
Well, one of the biggest goals, if not the biggest goal, is that I hope that one day I can make the Devil's State of Mind the biggest Devils podcast in the world. I want the Devil's State of Mind to be the place that people go to hear someone talk about the New Jersey Devils. If I can get that recognition, that would be great. That's some other goals is to just continue to get on some names. I'm still trying to get the likes of, Martin Brodeur and, Doc Emmerich and many other names, and try to get, recognition for not only myself, but also the Hockey Podcast Network. Because if I'm able to get the Devil's State of Mind podcast to be the place for New Jersey Devils hockey, to talk about on a podcast, that's only going to be great for the Hockey Podcast Network, because then people are going to know, oh, this is part of the Hockey Podcast Network. And then they see other teams. Oh, we got this, we got this, we got this. It's just, it's a win-win situation for all. So at the end of the day, I just want to continue to be recognized for the hard work that I put in. And, I'm thankful every day and very, very fortunate that I have this type of opportunity. And there are probably other goals that I'm going to try to reach as I move along. But I would say that's probably the biggest one that I want to achieve when it's all said and done.
Who are some of your future interviews that you plan on achieving?
Well, like I mentioned, I did mention Martin Brodeur is probably the biggest one that I'm trying to get, because I know how many people love Martin Brodeur and what he means to the New Jersey Devils. Like I said before, Mike Doc Emmerich would be another one. I'm actually talking with him at the moment to kind of set something up soon. So that's exciting. And also just, even present NHL players would be great. And just get on as many hockey minds as possible. I even get on people that are hockey fans that are also artists. And those things are exciting to me as well, because you hear that side and why they love hockey and why they incorporate art with hockey. And it's a wonderful thing. But I would say, some names like Marty Brodeur, Doc Emmerich, and even former and actually present NHL players as well would be great. And just getting on as many Devils personnel as possible.
That's amazing. What advice would you give upcoming future sports talk podcasts that are looking to start their own sports team podcast?
Never be afraid to do it. Never, take chances, take opportunities, because you never know who you're talking to. If you got to be active on social media to get some attention, that's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to put yourself out there. To me, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and if people notice you and people like what you're putting down, you're going to start getting a following. And that's the big thing. And I think also is that when you decide that you want to create a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever the case may be, to cover a specific team, you got to spend the time to look at other things that are similar to what you're doing and say, what can I do that's going to make me stand out from all these other ones? And I think that that's where you got to look at, your energy level or your preparation, or you got to do some crazy things. You got to put your name out there as much as possible. I would really recommend as well is that once you start, here's what you do. I would do the first 2 or 3, maybe even 4 episodes where you're just recording them. You're not sharing them or anything. You just record them and you go through them and you set them up the way you want to set them up and then go from there. And then make sure that you get some social media channels for your podcast, like a Twitter, an Instagram, a Facebook page if you want to, a Patreon if people want to give you money to support you, whatever the case may be. Do some things like that, because if you're on social media and you're interacting with fans and people like that, it's going to go a long way. It certainly helped me build the type of brand that I've been able to build in less than a year. So I would highly recommend that. But at the end of the day, just never, ever, ever give up on your dream. If you have a specific goal in mind, a specific dream, chase it. Do whatever you can and keep your eyes on the prize. When you're having a tough day and you're tired and you're wondering to yourself, oh, I only have 4 or 5 people listening. What am I doing this for? Remember your goal and keep pushing and keep trying to do new things, because at the end of the day, somebody's going to listen and somebody pretty well known is going to take a chance on you, and it's going to go from there. So those would be the advices I would give to people.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media and podcast platforms?
So you can follow the Devil's State of Mind podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. So we're on Apple, Spotify, everywhere, basically. Any place you listen to podcasts, just search Devil's State of Mind or the Hockey Podcast Network. And not only will you find my podcast, but you'll find all the podcasts for all of the NHL teams, as well as just some other great hockey podcasts that we have on this network. You can follow my personal Twitter at THENVPSHOW and my personal Instagram at NVPQB11. And you could also, if you go to the Devil State of Mind Twitter, which is at Devil State, or the Devil State of Mind Instagram at Devil State of Mind, you can find my personal Instagrams there as well. And also make sure to like and subscribe to the Facebook page. And on all of those, you can interact with me. You can you can ask me questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them either, via text or obviously on the podcast if you guys want me to do that. And I also do game updates. I live tweet games. I put things on my Instagram story. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me and where you can stay up to date with the Devil's State of Mind podcast.
Thank you again for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Devil's State of Mind podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on today. Let's go Devils.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.